Yeah, so we've been mentioning candidates, and so this slide kind of sums that up, I guess, that a lot of folks see community organizing and elections as kind of, if not mutually exclusive, at least kind of at odds with each other a little bit, right? Some folk will say, why are you wasting your time doing all that? You gotta work on a campaign. And then others will say, why do you waste your time voting, right? Go organize. And it's not an either or. That's what we want to kind of point out here, that it's not an either or debate. It's two tactics of part of a larger strategy, essentially. We have to be in both spaces. We have to be organizing, mutual aid efforts and community actions in general, as well as being involved in the electoral arena, because that's just where a lot of power and decision making happens today. So we have to be involved in both, but that also means we have to be careful with how we put the two together to make sure that they're, for lack of a better term, synergizing, right? And that they're not working against each other, because that is a real risk. You want to make sure that they're not working against each other, but instead reinforcing each other and building on each other. And so one example, the kind of middle bullets there, electoral campaigns have a finite lifespan. The folks that are running for Congress, they're running for Congress right now, or state house right now. But that campaign is up in November, right? So campaigns have definite beginnings and endings, but our organizing work never really ends. We are always organizing, always adapting. Until capitalism is gone, we're going to keep organizing, and even at that point, we're probably going to keep organizing because, we'll probably never have a perfect society, so to speak. Right? There will always be challenges and issues. We talked about this in our Eco-Socialism 101. We'll always want to try to make things better. So organizing is this, ongoing process, whereas electoral campaigns are very short-lived. And what happens a lot with those gaps is people will come into the electoral campaign, the campaign's over, and then they disappear because they don't have anything, or they don't know what else to do, right? So they just fall out. And we criticized the Bernie campaign earlier, right, for that happening. That folks were generally, once the campaign was over, they were just kind of left adrift without any sort of idea of what else to do, with the sole exception of well, go vote Democrat, go vote, or go support Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, which a lot of folks didn't want to do. And so, given no other option, there was nothing else to do. The Bernie campaign fell apart instead of becoming a long-term organizing effort, which is really a shame, because it could have become a larger working class movement. But that's why we keep at this, right? But we want to make sure that we're not making the same mistake with our green campaigns. We have to make sure that our green campaigns for office are feeding into actions that happen between and during campaigns, to keep people energized and to keep people focused on what we're building for the future. The campaigns should help emphasize those actions and funnel people into it. And then, as our actions build momentum and all, then those actions should spin off like, okay, we've built enough of a base around this issue that it's time to run a candidate for city council or whatever to make it happen. So, you want to have the two that balance each other and use each other strategically to build the overall mass organization.
Yeah, the first green congressperson, in my opinion, is not going to come based on the charisma of the candidate. It's going to happen based on the organization of the party in the supporting area, right? And I've been asked a lot, who is going to be the first green congressperson? Right. My answer to that question is actually, where are we going to produce our first green congressperson, right? That's a different, it's a different focus and a different understanding of how to build power and how to win. 80 to 90% need to know your name, right? But if you don't have a committed team that's able to go out and canvass for you, that's able to show up and produce for you, that's able to fill key roles on your campaign team, it doesn't matter how charismatic you are. You're probably going to fall short. There's obviously outliers there, but Congress isn't generally a thing you can luck into, though, right?
No.
Just use my personal example here in Illinois. Just to get on the ballot for Congress, I'm going to have to collect probably it changes year to year based on the vote, but over 15,000 signatures in 90 days. Charisma cannot collect 15,000 signatures in 90 days. That takes organization.
Right.
And we've got to be able to move that. The key here is that transition from campaign into organization and organization into campaign. And that helps us. That also means you're not starting from scratch, right? As your activists move cycle to cycle, the person that picked up social media because someone needed to pick it up gains a lot of skill, gains a lot of experience, and 2 cycles from now, maybe your rock star social media person. They just needed time to develop. And because they went from being the campaign was like, hey, that was better social media than we were doing as a state party. So you go to that person and you say, would you like to help us with our state party social media? And they spend 2 years doing it with the party, and then they're ready to do it at a higher level the next time they cycle into a campaign. So that back and forth transition is essential for developing our base, developing our bench, and sustaining ourselves long term.
Yep, exactly.